Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're going to give it just a second for everyone to get in from the waiting room, get connected. Just a little admin so you all know this is being recorded, but Chelsea and I are spotlit. We're the only ones that will be recorded with cameras or names. If you speak, your voice will be included in the recording, but none of your video will be recorded. So, for all of you, just heads up on that. But also, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Connect, Practice, Recover. I am Kristen Portland. I am a support group leader and staff member with ANID, and I am with Chelsea Roth today from Eat, Breathe, Thrive. And both do some really cool things for the eating disorder community, so you should check us out. But today, I'm really excited to get a conversation going with everyone. We'll be talking about moving beyond body positivity, what that means, what it is as a tool, and what you can do instead or along with. And we're about to start, but before we do, I think you've all seen the community guidelines as part of sign up. If you haven't yet, I think we can link those in the chat. We're joined by Corey, who's going to be doing some of the admin support work here. And as well, we'd love for everyone to check in. Use the chat for this, but please share your name, first name, last initial, whatever you're comfortable with, your pronouns. And I'd love to know what does body positivity mean to you? So that's maybe a big question for a check-in, but if you could just share a couple words, I think it'll help us get grounded. But yeah, Chelsea, did I miss any?
No, I just want to say also welcome everybody. Happy Eating Disorders Awareness Week. This is our ANAD and EBT get together and well, Kristen and I get together to lead this event. We do these events once a quarter. So if it's your first time joining us at Connect Practice Recover, welcome to you, but also happy ED Awareness Week. This is Kristen and I always lead the one on ED Awareness Week. So it's good to be back with you, Kristen.
You too. I always like getting
Yeah.
to talk with you.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. And we do want you to use the chat, so we'll keep an eye on the chat. But if you have any questions for Kristen and I, we'll start with a bit of a discussion, and then the nice thing about CPR events is that we also will take some time to embody our discussion in a yoga practice. Just a short yoga practice, very accessible. You can do it from a chair, from lying down, from standing up, any way you want to. I'll give you lots of options.
Mhm.
Um, but to start, can I turn that question on you, Kristen? What does
Yeah.
body positivity mean to you?
Man, it's meant a lot of different things to me at a lot of different, I feel. And at this point, I I can say, like with truth, that I feel good about my body sometimes. And also there are times when I don't. And I think that's a perfectly normal thing. And body positivity, for a long time to me, it felt like pressure, like something that I should be or that like needed to be the goal. And now now it's more something that is there sometimes, and other times if like I'm not feeling it, it's not as big a deal. So I don't know, it's evolved a lot, but that's kind of where I'm sitting with it now. But what about you?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think evolving is a good way to put it, and I'm seeing that actually in the chat that I'm hearing other people say that it's evolving. I hear things like peace, comfort, and trust, recognizing what my body does for me rather than just what it looks like, being patient with what it can do. These are great answers. I also appreciate that some people have said, body positivity isn't always something that resonates with me necessarily, and I can relate to that too. I probably lean a little bit more on that side. When I first got into eating disorder recovery, I think probably it was probably a tool I used a little bit, a lot actually. I probably like a lot of kind of this might sound hokey to some people, but my mom was really into positive affirmations. And so she would put them all around my room, my hospital room. She'd put things like, today is a new day. And it is always darkest before the dawn, like super cheesy stuff. But also like, love yourself and accept yourself. And that was probably really needed at the time because I was in such a dark place. But I think as you know, over time, I think I was a little bit I think if I was really honest with myself, I didn't feel good in my body at all for a long time in ED recovery. I felt really, um, my body was changing. There was a lot that wasn't working about it in terms of functionality. Digestion was really poor. I was really fatigued, all of those things. And so sometimes body positivity just kind of felt like I was living a lie, like I was trying to pretend something was true when it wasn't.
Yep,
Um,
I've felt that.
and yeah, so and then I think I got to a point much later on where I really did come to appreciate my body, but it had nothing to do with what it looked like or, kind of whether it was healthy in the way that like was the standard of being a healthy, this idea of like strong, fit, thin, all these things. My body was what allowed me to pick up my cat today, and hold him close to me. And so I appreciated my body for having that experience of like him resting on my tummy and just kind of purring and being able to experience that sweetness with my cat. Oh, that was let's
Yep.
see. And so it wasn't really body positivity as much as it was something closer to body functionality, appreciating my body for the experiences I was able to have through it that were positive rather
Yeah.
than what it looked like in the mirror.
That's a cool framing. I don't think I've heard it said exactly that way before. I like that a lot. But yeah, positivity is hard to access if you're not feeling positive. So I I think early on I hadn't heard of alternatives to body positivity, right? It just seemed like the thing that you had to work on, like, oh, love your body, love yourself, and it'll be like that's part of what recovery looks like. And since then, I've learned about alternatives, and we'll talk about some, but I think understanding that body positivity is a tool was really helpful because not every tool is right for every situation. And that can be every person is different, or you can be at different places in your life and your mindset in your day. And some of it can shift, and that's okay. So like I think neutrality and acceptance, like body neutrality and body acceptance have meant a lot to me to just include in there. And like if I'm having a day where I'm just not feeling it, like it's okay. Be completely neutral. Like, hey, no matter how I feel about it, my body still deserves to be taken care of. And there are days when acceptance feels better than positivity. And for me, it shifts pretty regularly. So
Yeah, I love that. And I think sometimes it's hard. Like if you've got that voice in your head going, yeah, but I don't accept my body for how it is. I don't like this. I don't want to look this way, or I don't, sometimes what I hear in that, like even behind that, Kristen, is acceptance of what is, like even acceptance of not feeling good about your body in that moment and going, and I still know that the right thing to do in this moment is to care for myself, is to even, maybe it's just going through the motions in this moment of doing the thing that, I know I need to do that I don't want to do and I don't feel like doing and, everything in me. But there's a part around kind of, even in that moment when you don't feel accepting of your body, accepting of that. I mean, that is, you're not getting out of that in that moment. That's what it is. You can't just think yourself out of that. Mm.
Joanne put in the chat that experiencing new pain levels and limitations with physical activity and marrying that with positivity is a challenge. And I think that's a really important point because body positivity, I think it assumes a lot about people, right? And even some of the trite things of like appreciate what your body can do for you. That hits if you're living with a chronic illness or you're in a body that doesn't let you do everything that you see other people doing. So I've really appreciated that there are other tools available that I can learn about and like share. But I think just naming that positivity, it can be a privilege. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you pointed out there that like appreciate what your body can do. There's sometimes where your body really can't do very much, and sometimes that's not a sometimes state. That is a chronic state. When you're dealing with chronic illness or injury or disability, right, which can happen as a result of an eating disorder. It just happens, we just kind of live, that's what we live with. That is our experience day to day. I found it really helpful to think about body functionality in multiple domains. So I think that sometimes we get really stuck in the domain of physical functionality of thinking my body can do physically, walk, these things, which, as you said, Kristen, are kind of a form of privilege. Walk, digest food, feel energy, etc. Like sometimes that my body's not doing that. It's not actually. There were times in my recovery where my body was not doing those basic functions, and I certainly didn't appreciate that. It's like I really didn't appreciate that.
You didn't feel
Um,
positive about that?
no, I didn't. And I didn't feel very functional. I was like, my body's not very functional right now, but there were other domains of functionality. And again, I was looking for experiences I could have through my body. So there was social functionality, my body was what allowed me, again, I keep using my cat as an example, but it's so present for me because he was literally just on my lap purring and it was like the sweetest feeling ever. But being able to connect with another being without words through my body, I'm just petting him and expressing love through my hands and he's purring and I don't know what it is it purrs in an animal's body, but it was great. It felt so good. And just in that moment, it wasn't about walking, running, performing, etc. That was social. And I think you can think about that emotionally, what your body can allow you to experience emotionally, creatively, maybe you love to paint or you love to play music or you do, those are all embodied experiences. We can't experience them anyway but through our body. And so if functionality is feeling really inaccessible to you, I think it's worth kind of thinking about those other ways that the body supports you to live and experience the things you do get those little blips of pleasure or joy or sweetness from.
Yeah, and those blips add up. Like you said about like affirmations, I think a lot of people, myself included, will sometimes look at those and be like, "Oh, it's ridiculous, it's trite." I remember like yelling at my therapist for like, "This is something like a kindergarten class should be doing," when she gave me activities. I was like, "I don't want to do this. It just seems so silly." And then but I tried and it did feel silly, but some of it I tried and like it was helpful. And I was so
Mhm.
annoyed that it was helpful because I was like, this was so ridiculous, but it was. And I think those little blips add up too. It can
Mhm.
be easy to be like, oh, well, this was a moment, and then I'm going back to like how it was before, but it adds up. And I think the more you try to look for them, and for me, I'm going back to one of our support rules of talk about yourself, don't generalize. But for me, actively looking for those moments helped me find more because they were more on my radar. It was something to practice. So yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just
Yeah, I
scanning through
do.
the chat as well. A lot of people are talking about acceptance and compassion. And I think compassion is a really big one here. Because for me, just kind of as a base state, I have to work a lot harder to show myself the same compassion that I can naturally give to other people. And I don't believe I'm unusual in that. It's something I see in a lot of, yeah, and practicing it, I think is really helpful. And that supports whatever kind of body approach you want to take, whether it's positivity, acceptance, neutrality, that compassion of saying, like, you know what, no matter how I feel, no matter what's going on, my body deserves to be cared for.
Yeah. Yeah. Compassion it's a big one. It's sometimes I also work with just kindness, trying to turn the same kindness I show to others on myself.
Mhm.
Looking back at the chat, I thought this was a really interesting point and might be worth kind of discussing that and it goes on compassion, but body positivity is working on being compassionate about myself, especially when others project negativity or even disgust. I think that's a really I'm really glad this person shared that because I think that one of the things that comes up around all of the things we're talking about, body positivity, body functionality, self-compassion, etc., is, if we were just isolated beings living by ourselves with our cats or our dogs, you know, probably wouldn't necessarily be quite as difficult to cultivate these, this kindness toward ourselves. But we live in a world and we live in a society where there are pretty rigid and I would say very narrow like concepts and constructs out there that are being messaged at us all the time through advertising about what our bodies should look like, what a good body is, what a worthy, it's all kind of tied up with worthiness and value, like you will get dates, you will be successful in your career, you will be respected if you have this kind of body, and vice versa if not. And then sometimes that comes directly from other people, not even advertising. And it's really hard to develop a really compassionate relationship with yourself and your body when you have that coming at you all the time. um
Or even if you grew up with it, even once you get out of that setting, that stays with you. It's something you have to put a lot of work into, unfortunately.
yeah, is there anything that helps you with that, Kristen? I'm just thinking like when I was a kid, I remember my grandfather saying something like, he's a lovely, lovely guy, but he grew up at a different time. Just say
I
that,
know exactly what you mean. Yeah, in a
Yeah,
lot
and he
of
would
different
say
ways.
some things that got stuck in my head as a kid, awful things about body. He didn't mean it unkindly, but anyhow, how do you work with that?
I remember some things I learned in like school health classes that were really negative and stuck with me in really unfortunate ways for a long time. Um, for me, a large part of my work personally was figuring out what I value. And I like values work, I think is pretty common, but I found it very, very helpful to identify the things that I found valuable in other people and that I wanted to embody in myself. And that was not in line with how I was thinking and behaving while I was really disordered. Like I was never such a judgmental asshole as I was when I was sick. And that wasn't what I wanted to be. And noticing that and naming that, it helped give me a reason to start shifting in a way that a lot of other things hadn't. So, and I didn't want to be like those people that would turn around and say awful things and like fuel disordered thoughts in other people. And I wanted to be different. And I am part of that. Like showing that compassion to myself and the kindness to myself is part of that. So that
Yeah.
was a shift for me.
I love that. And that's really insightful. Like, just, I think sometimes it's hard to admit that, when you say, like, I was a really judgmental person, like, the judgment we show toward ourselves is actually, that counts. You can't be like, it's like, well, I don't do that to other people, but I do, that's part of who we're being in terms of who we're being with ourselves. Yeah, I think, for me, I mean, this is kind of hard to say and easier said than done, but there were times where I did have to let go of certain friendships and relationships that were not supporting. Like there was too much negativity and too much toxicity. There weren't very many of those, but there were a couple, particularly in sport, that just were not. I was like, this is not something I want to keep around in my orbit as I grow older and and I can't continue to recover and have people close to me that I respect and value, et cetera, like saying that kind of negativity. I think the other piece I think that I've found helpful is kind of, and I think it relates to what you said, Kristen, is like it's almost a form of like internal activism of being the person in the world that I think is, like for instance, when people ask me, how do I look in this dress? I never comment on their body. I just don't. So I go, how do you feel? Does it feel good? Does it fit well? Like I'll just turn it right around. Or if people comment on my body, sometimes I say something about it. I just go, I appreciate that. I try not to say things about people's body because you never know how it's going to be heard. Is it going to be heard as a compliment? Is it going to be heard as a insult? But I've tried to actually in my friend circles and all of that be that way and not do it in a way that's judgmental or like, okay, wagging the finger, you shouldn't have said that, but just
Mhm.
almost give permission to act in a different way, to say like, I don't comment on other people's bodies and here's why. and I think that's been received really well in some of my friend groups. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
I agree. I am very lucky, friends, and a lot of them are doing similar work, like n not even necessarily in the eating disorders field, but just, trying. I'm in a phase of life where I see a lot of my friends having kids. I have some kids. It's a lot of let's make sure we're instilling them with as healthy is a loaded word, but a relationship with food in their bodies as we can. And I think for those who are aware of it, there's a lot more information about how to do that now than I think, probably my parents had, which is good. So yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm seeing in the chat too people talking about body changes and aging, and yeah, it's a lot.
This is I love this comment that I think body changes in recovery and as you age can be really hard to manage, and it can feel at times like you're losing your identity or you aren't good enough. I love this point, and I think it's one of the reasons I've kind of always been a little prickly toward body positivity is because I think this idea of just convincing yourself that your body looks good, and maybe that's not what body positivity is, it's much bigger than that, but the aesthetic version of it of like you are beautiful, like love your curves, all that kind of stuff. I just go, we are all in bodies that are aging, every one of us, all of us. And to, and not to say that an aging body is not a beautiful body by any means, but to get in any way attached to some aesthetic form is just, I just think it's totally unhelpful. My body's going to age, it's going to get, and it's aging, it's getting injured, it's it's changing, its gravity is having an effect, all of those things, and that's going to continue, and I want to be in relationship with that as just going, this is the nature, it's entropy, this is life, this is what happens. To get attached to a single form is just, I think, asking for suffering.
Changing is inevitable. Like change is the only thing that we can absolutely guarantee will always keep happening. And
Yeah.
to to your point about like I lost what it is exactly that you said, but the idea of your body giving a piece of your identity.
Mm.
I, again, going back to like values and all the internal work I had to do, I had to start thinking of myself as more and valuing the things that I did and that I thought and that I felt and the relationships that I had more than the things that were happening with my body. And again, that was a big piece of the values. I want to be of service. Like that's a big piece of me and my values and what I want to do. And I can do that with a huge variety of body changes and sizes and abilities. There are always ways to be of service. And so for me, really taking that as a core piece of the identity that I want to focus on, it helped like my body is a part of me that's always going to, but it doesn't have to be the biggest and most important part.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I love that you pointed to the identity piece because I think that was part of this comment is body changes can at times feel like you're losing your identity or aren't good enough. And I think I can relate to that so much because it's really hard in a way that I guess I just the way we grow up, the way life is, not for your body to get linked up to identity. I was listening to a really interesting podcast the other day, which might sound a bit unrelated, but it was about face transplants, and it was talking to people who had had full facial transplants because of injury, etc. And these are people that their face changed through injury, but then they get a new face, like a completely different person's face, right? And you can just imagine the idea, and they spoke about it, how even their relationships with their kids changed because their kids, don't rec they're like, wait, you're not daddy, you don't look like daddy, etc. So I just wanted to say that what you're saying there, I can really relate to. And I think that we do our bodies and our identities do get really deeply entangled, and sometimes even our illness and our identities get really deeply entangled, and that work of slowly disentangling them can be really hard, and there can be a lot of loss and grief. And maybe that's where kind of the whole moving beyond body positivity, it's like it's okay to mourn. It's okay to mourn the body that isn't there. Like I don't have the same body I did 10 years ago. It's completely different and it's never going to be the same again. And that's not always doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always feel really happy. Sometimes that's a bit difficult. And sometimes you kind of have to mourn that in order to be in relationship with and to accept the body you have now. So yeah, I loved that comment.
Mhm. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking in the comments right now
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
And do you want to put something in there about on social media, body positivity being attached to accepting and applauding primarily the appearance of our body? And it makes it challenging to feel like I'm doing the work the right way. And I just wanted to call that out because there is no right way. There is no tool. There is no approach. There is no path to recovery that is going to work for every single person. It just doesn't. There is no single right way to approach a relationship with your body or to approach recovery or to make changes. And while that can be really hard because there's no easy roadmap to say like, hey, do X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to be good. I think it's also it with some framings, it can be a really lovely thing because we're all different. And the things that work for us are individual and unique, just like we are. Like, no, we're not all the same, nor should we be. And the things that work for you, you have to try to find, but there isn't a right way. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. No one here is doing anything wrong. We're all just learning and making mistakes and trying again. It's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's weird, but I hadn't thought about this till we got into this. I feel like if we were to rename this session, it would be something around accepting change in recovery.
Yeah.
Accepting change and imperfection or something along those lines, because it's so much of what we're talking about is realizing that recovery is going to evolve. I mean, we kind of started with this evolution, right? Like body positivity evolves, but also your body is constantly changing. And that the only thing that's going to stay the same is the fact that it's changing. And even that will end at a certain point. And I think that probably what we need to be able to cultivate is some way to be with that change without fighting it, which maybe that is positivity or maybe it's acceptance or something, but um, it does seem to be where a lot of the tension comes in is, oh, and I'm seeing this in the chat, one of the big triggers for me with food noise is body changes. And I relate to that. It's really hard. I relate to that a lot right now, particularly because my body's going through some changes as well. And yeah, I mean, I was saying in another event, I can't believe I'm bring this up again, but I started having dreams about it. Like my body's changing and it's come out in dreams. And I'm like, oh no, I feel good. Things are great. But in my dreams, I'm like, oh my God, my dreams are like panicked, just utterly panicked. And I think, yeah, as human beings, we struggle with change. It's hard.
It's true. And to Kate's point, especially now as with a shift back to a big link between thinness and worth, especially for women again, it's hard. We're surrounded
Mm.
by so many things telling us that we should be changing differently. We should be changing to fit the mold. We should be spending money to change ourselves. Like, let's invent problems that you can spend money on in order to fix yourself in whatever way. And it's really hard. I took myself off social media mainly for a lot of reasons, but a big piece of it is that so much of it is toxic right now. And not everyone can do that. That's not appropriate for everyone, but just for me, I know it's better for me if I limit my engagement as much as I can. So it's a choice to
Yeah.
protect myself and my mental health, and I've been feeling good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done the same thing. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only someone else has said that they they have dreams as well. I'm glad I'm not the only one. You know, the mind shows up in the dreams, doesn't it? And yeah, it's worth paying attention to. Worth paying attention to.
I
Okay,
feel
are we
like we
at that
could have for
time?
like 2 hours of conversation
I
about this,
know.
but
I
it
know.
it is time to pivot to the yoga part of today.
Yeah, and I've started even for those of you who, I mean, some of you may love yoga, and that is wonderful if you do. I've even started thinking about this more as just an embodiment practice, a practice of embodying what it is we're working with today. So, it may look really different than most yoga classes that you see, but I think what's kind of emerging out of this, I think, from what I'm hearing is kind of being with the body as it changes, you know, being with our experience, some level of acceptance. And so what I thought we could maybe play with in the embodiment practice is instead of thinking about the form of what the body is in, because you all are you're each different people and you're each going to be in different forms, no matter how, even if I called the pose and had everybody the same pose, everybody would be in different forms. So I want to invite you to completely release any thought about what the form looks like and really think about what the pose feels like and the experiences that you're having. And so we're going to start with grounding, like a grounding practice. We'll call it a practice. And there's multiple poses you can do, but the invitation in this practice is just in the whole practice that we'll do over just about 20 minutes, 25 minutes here, is to notice the experience that you're having in your body rather than what the body looks like on the outside and to link up with that. So, on that note, I am not going to do too much demonstrating so that I can see you. So, if you are comfortable being on video and maybe like getting into, if you've got like a little, some of you have a space, I can see you've kind of come out of your chair and gotten on the ground. You're welcome to do that. You can stay in your chair if you'd like. I'm going to stay in my chair. But I'm going to stay in my chair. So, don't necessarily do what I do. And if you point your camera at yourself, I can see you a little bit better and I can kind of cue for what I'm seeing, but don't feel pressured to if you don't want to. But we're going to start with a grounding practice. So grounding is all about noticing where we make contact with the ground, with what's solid beneath us. So you can do this sitting in a chair. You can do this lying down if you like. If your body's just kind of feeling tired and fatigued today, lying down can feel really nice. And if you're sitting in a chair or on the floor and you have something behind you, like the back of a chair or a couch, you can lean back against that. Doesn't really matter where your legs are. If you're in a chair, it can be nice to place the soles of your feet on the ground. And if you'd like to, you can close your eyes. You don't have to. And always in yoga practice, we always begin by noticing the breath. So whenever it feels natural to you, you can just start to notice what it feels like to breathe in and what it feels like to breathe out. And again, like that, as you breathe in, maybe notice the feeling in your throat as you breathe in. And maybe notice the feeling in your chest as you breathe out. And we'll do one more like that. Breathing in deeply, maybe notice the feeling in your chest this time as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, notice the feeling in your back as you breathe out. Keep breathing really deeply like that, in and out. But this time we're going to move the attention, your attention to your seat. So where your seat makes contact with something solid underneath you. So breathing in, just picking a part of your body that is making contact with the floor and noticing that feeling of solidity underneath you. It might be nice here to imagine roots emerging from your body and going deep down into the earth. Sometimes I like to imagine it kind of busting through the foundation of the building I'm in, going down into the soil, and then bringing your attention all the way from those roots up your spine. And then on your exhale, again, down your spine, down into the earth. As you're breathing, you can just notice how, without even trying to do anything, you are anchored to the ground. That force of gravity holds you firmly in place. And you are safe. Right, from here, we're going to bring a little bit of movement in. So where most of you have, I think, your hands in your lap, which will work really well here. Go ahead and let all of your breath out. And on your next inhale, you can sweep your hands up by your sides and raise them up above your head. Taking the whole breath in to reach up. And then as you exhale, bend your elbows, opening your heart and chest like a cactus. You might even press your chest up just a little bit. Good. Inhale, reach back up toward the ceiling. You might even look up toward your hands. And then as you exhale, you can bring your hands down by your side on either side. Whether you're in a seat or on the ground, you can just press down just a little bit to what's firm beneath you. Let's do that again. Inhale, reach up and notice the feeling in your arms as you reach up. Again, you can gaze up if you'd like to, or keep your eyes closed. Exhale, slowly bend your elbows, just gently opening the back and chest, not forcing or pressing. Good. Inhale, reach back up toward the ceiling, getting tall. And exhale, slowly bring the hands down to either side. And one more time like that. Inhale, reach up. Just slowly lifting the arms, almost like they're floating. Exhale, bend the elbows, not forcing. Inhale, reaching back up. Noticing that line of energy coming up through your fingertips. And then exhale, hands to sides. Good, and we'll just pause here, maybe take some shoulder rolls forward and back. Just as you're doing that, notice how your shoulders feel. Sometimes as you do these little movements, you go, "Ooh, I've got a little knot in there. I didn't realize I had." And take your head left to right a few times. Real open space here to just kind of move intuitively. So can be turning the head, some circles with the head, just opening up that part of the body. And again, focusing on the feeling that you have in your head, neck, and shoulders, and moving toward those sensations that feel opening, relaxing, tension releasing. There's really no right or wrong way to do head and neck rolls, that's for sure. There's no perfect head and neck roll. All right. So we're going to come back to center. And again, we're going to start with hands at side and sweep the hands up as we inhale. So breathing in slowly. And again, almost like you've got strings on the ends of your hands if you're lifting your hands up, light in the arms. This time as you exhale, bring your right hand down by your side, and they can come to a seat or to the floor beneath you. And then as you exhale, we're going to lean just a little bit toward the right. And then notice what you feel on your side. Good. Inhale, come back up to center, lift, maybe gaze up toward the hands, taking your time with each movement. Exhale, left hand down by side. Compress the hand into, you can also use a block underneath the hand if you happen to have yoga blocks, but chair or floor, and then lean slightly. Notice what you feel on your left side. Notice what feels good, what doesn't feel so good. Inhale, back up to center. And exhale, hands to sides. Okay, so just like before, we're going to do that 2 more times. I want you to really pay attention to your breath and see if you can link each movement with the length of your breath, each inhale and exhale. Okay, so we'll start by letting all the breath out. And then inhale, sweep the hands up. Exhale, right hand aside, left hands overhead. Inhale, sweep back up. Exhale, left hand aside, right hand overhead, side stretch. Inhale, sweep back up to center, lifting, maybe gazing toward the fingers. And exhale, hands to sides. One more time with your breath. So I'm not even going to cue it. Just breathe and move in that same way we did before. Very nice. All right, so we've opened the heart and shoulders, and just check in. How's your heart, chest, shoulders feeling, neck feeling now? It could be you got a lot of tension and it's not feeling good today. And maybe you had like just some little blips. There's little blips we are talking about of opening or of a kind of nice feelings. Just checking in, noticing how you're feeling. We're going to work with the wrists just a little bit here to warm them up a tiny bit. And then I'm going to move into moving another part of our body, but just doing those really slow sequences so we can work with the breath. So sorry, I'm just messing with my hands here. I love that you all are following me on this. It's just awkward Chelsea movements, to be honest with you. But here we go. So hand, you can just gently pull on the fingertips, not hard here. These are really delicate parts of the body. So just gently pulling on the fingertips. Yeah, and you could, if it doesn't feel good to do that, you can go fingers around here. Sorry, I slammed my finger into a train door, hence I have a galaxy on my fingernail. It's not the prettiest thing. Great. And then the other hand here. So just gently, really gently. And oh my gosh, when I go to my left side, I go, ooh, that one's tighter. That's interesting. So just gently noticing what feels tight and what doesn't. And then maybe other way around this time. So you can kind of, if it feels not so nice to push this way, you can go into a fist and press down the fist, or really gently just pressing the other way. And you can do some really small movements here. Again, those are really delicate ligaments, so we don't want to push too hard. Great. Let's do the other side now, whichever hand you weren't just doing. You might find one side's a little tighter than the other. Great. And let's take some circles with the wrists. So let's go kind of inward first, bringing wrists toward one another. Almost like you've got a marker and you're drawing circles. Love it, Corey. Sully thinks that this is a game. If you've got animals in your space, you may have the animal doing yoga too. We can go the other way around. Yeah, I see that, Kristen. You got your cat just watching quietly from under the lounge. Other way now. Great. Wow, that's harder than it looks, isn't it? My wrists are like, gosh, I'm tired. Oof. Okay, and then best yoga pose ever, just shake them out. Shake out the wrists. Great. Okay, I am going to demonstrate a little bit with this one because I'm going to give you lots of options. So I know some of you will stay in chairs, and that's okay. I'm going to come onto my knees. So either you can stay in a chair or come onto your knees if you're on the floor. You can do this seated on the floor as well, but I'm just going to kind of come onto my knees so you can see me. Can everybody see my rug here? Yeah, great. Okay, so if you're in a chair, you're just staying seated. And if you are on the floor and you'd like to come into knees or cross-legged like Kristen is doing, that's just fine as well. Okay, great. So we're going to start with that same movement we did, sweeping the arms up. But if you are sitting down on the floor, we're going to sweep the arms up and kind of lift up. And if you're in a chair, you're just going to focus on lengthening through the spine. Okay, so we're going to start with that. Okay, so inhale, sweep the hands up. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, and we're lifting up if we're seated down. And then as you exhale, you're going to fold forward if you're in a chair and fold forward in a child's pose if you're down on the ground. Great. Folding forward. And then from there, you can swing your head from left to right a few times. Yep. And if you're in a chair, you can just fold forward, head down toward knees, releasing the neck. There you go. No need to look. I'm going to try to use my words really well. Great. Very good. If you are down on the floor, you're going to come forward to an all fours. If you are in a chair, you can look up at me. You can place hands on shins and just lift forward like that with your chest. And if you're on the floor, like Kristen, coming to all fours and just looking up. Great. As you exhale, if you're on the floor, you can come back to a child's pose. And if you're if you're in a chair like me, we can just fold over, shaking the head left or right. Great. Inhale, we're going to come back up onto the knees or lift up with the arms, sweeping the hands up. Everybody following, great. Good. Go ahead, lift, perfect. And then exhale, hands to heart. I know you can't see my whole body here. Did everybody get that okay? Can I get some thumbs ups? We're gonna do that a few times. Yeah, oh, I got thumbs up. Great. My chair friends. Yes, thumbs ups. Yeah, great. Okay, let's do it one more time. So our base pose, we're either in a chair sitting or we are on our knees, kind of sitting back on the heels or cross-legged. Great. Okay, so inhale, this is our mountain pose. We're coming up. Inhale, lift up, gaze up toward the ceiling. If you're on knees, go ahead and come up off your knees, getting tall, getting length. Exhale, fold forward into a forward fold or to child's pose. Great. Inhale, lift into all fours or hands to shins, lengthening. Exhale, come back to child's pose or folding over the legs. Inhale, come all the way up, back up to our mountain pose, sweeping the hands up, getting tall. Great. And then exhale, hands to sides, sitting back on knees, or back on heels, sorry. There you go. That felt good. That felt like there was some smoothness there. Let's do that 2 more times, okay? Inhale, gaze up, and the function, the experience we're looking for here is length in the body. Exhale, fold forward, child's pose, or folding forward into the legs. And here we're letting go in the body. Good. Inhale, all fours or halfway lift, opening through the chest. That's what we want here. Openness through the heart and chest. Exhale, child's pose or fold forward, letting go. And then inhale again, length, coming back up, arms sweeping up, coming off the seat, lengthen the body. And then exhale, bringing the arms back down. We'll do one more, and I'm just going to cue those experiences rather than the pose. You can always just look up the screen if you're not sure what to do. Okay, inhale, sweep the arms up, length. Exhale, fold forward or child's pose, letting go. Inhale, open the heart and chest. Exhale, letting go. Inhale, length. Exhale, back to center. Back to seat, back to center. Very good, very good. Great, we're doing yoga. Who knew? All right, very good. Okay, we're gonna do one more practice before we close. And here you can come to any position you want in your body. What you want to find in your body is somewhere that you can be attentive, not go into Shavasana yet. So maybe a seat, but somewhere you can be comfortable. You don't have to really work too much to hold up your body. So a comfortable seated position. Sometimes in yoga, they call it easy pose, which is usually cross-legged. It's not easy for many of us. So I want you to find a true easy pose for you. What feels like an easy pose for you. And this next practice, we did a grounding practice to begin. We're going to do an orienting practice as we close. And an orienting practice, the function of this practice we're doing with our body, it's really good for bringing ourselves into presence, into the here and now, into exactly what's happening in this moment, particularly if we've got rumination or critical thoughts or bad memories or any of that. This is coming right here and now. And we do that through the body and through our senses. So the first sense I want you to work with is your eyes and your vision and your sight, if that's accessible to you. You can also do this with your hearing if that's not accessible to you. So eyes or ears, either one works. But if you've got sight available to you, what we're going to do is just start to notice everything in our space. So you don't have to pay attention to me or the computer screen at all. I want you to start just by noticing color. Noticing all the different colors that you see in your space. And you might just mentally go around and start to note in your mind the colors that you're seeing. You might find the same color twice, but in a different shade, different gradations of color. And you really take time to notice it. It's kind of incredible how many different colors there are surrounding us at any given moment. As you're sweeping your eyes around the room, noticing all of the different colors in your space, you might also start to notice the textures on which you're finding those colors. So some of the textures might be soft, different fabrics. Some of them might look smooth or hard. You might notice living textures in a plant or an animal, or even wood. Just taking and noticing how the color and the texture interacts. And really taking time to notice each object one by one, taking in what you see. As you do that, noticing each object, you can also start to notice shape. So the curves, the lines, the dimensions. Some of the shapes may be soft, some may be angled. And the last thing I'm going to have you just notice through your eyes before we close this practice is light, the quality of light in your room. And it may seem at first like it's uniform, but as you sweep your eyes across different corners, different walls, you might see a dance between light and shadow. You might find that the contours of some of the shapes you were looking at aren't quite clear because they're hidden in the dark. You might notice natural light and artificial light. The sun's just gone down here, so it's just enough light to still see outside, but just barely. All right. Then we'll come back to center. You've got an animal coming into your space, you just welcome them in. Our friends in the yoga practice. And you can keep your eyes open if you feel comfortable doing so. You can close your eyes. And just one last time, noticing how it feels to breathe. We take for granted that our body does this all the time for us without us even having to think about it. It's really nice the body does that, beats our heart, breathes our lungs, even when we forget to do it. Just for these next two breaths, really bring some conscious attention to how you're breathing. And notice the quality of feeling as you inhale. And the quality of feeling, how it feels in your chest and your back as you exhale. And that's it. That's it for our practice. Yeah, thank you. That was lovely. Got a little bit of a vicarious yoga high.
Thank you, Chelsea.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here with me, Kristen. Thank you to all of you who were here and shared so much in the chat. Yeah,
Anyone's looking for extra support this Eating Disorders Awareness Week, there is a lot out there.
so
So
much.
many places have support groups, places to call, people to talk to. I'm glad you were all here. You found us. I think this is a really beautiful way to start a week that can be hard, can be supportive, but yeah.
Yeah. We've got 4-week courses, yoga for eating disorder recovery courses that are not too different from this, a little bit more discussion and kind of interaction, some yoga practice. And there's also 7-week courses, and they're free. Most of them are free. So you can find those on our website. And I know Anna has mentorship. And is there anything particularly you want to mention,
Yeah,
Kristen?
our got 19 different support groups open to anyone in the English speaking world. They meet weekly. They're really easy to sign up for. Our helpline is available 9 to 9 Central. It's a warm line, so if you just need to talk to somebody, get grounded. Our volunteers are really phenomenal for that. So, yeah, I think it is Eating Disorder Awareness Week,
It is.
specifically in the US. I don't know
And
if
the
it's
UK.
and
And
the
the
UK.
UK. We just have a different theme.
Oh,
But
well.
yeah. Yeah, but yes, and we'll be back with Connect Practice Recover next quarter. So the lovely Corey will send you an email. Some of you will be watching in the future if you miss this with the recording, and we would love you to sign up for the next one. And we'll be back again in a couple months.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.